Police say this 2-year-old infant was kidnapped from a hospital by its own parents. We'll have late details in a live report.
Police in the South Bay are investigating a deadly accident involving a light rail train.
City leaders in Santa Monica said no to ATM fees, so starting today, some banks there said no to consumers.
And on this Veterans Day, remembering war through the eyes of those who have been there. Those stories and all the news on this Thursday night, November 11th, 1999.
And now, the award-winning 10 o'clock news on Channel 2, the #1 primetime newscast in the country.
Good evening, I'm Leslie Griffith.
And I'm Dennis Richmond.
On this Veterans Day, Americans pause to honor the millions of men and women who have served in this country's military and those who lost their lives in the line of duty. President Clinton paid tribute to the war dead at Arlington National Cemetery this morning by laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns. In his remarks later, Mr. Clinton said, "We owe all veterans a debt that we can never repay." Here in the Bay Area, there were a number of observances for Veterans Day. One was the 46th annual parade in Hayward. Some of the veterans represented in the parade were survivors of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Others represented the Bay Area's Chapter 400 of the Vietnam Veterans of America.
Among the memories that veterans carry of hardship and sacrifice during war, for many there are troubling memories of another kind, memories of strained race relations during war. In the Vietnam era, racial tensions on the home front were reflected on the battlefront. Randy Shandeville has a look back in this report.
All war is chaos and catastrophe, but imagine war in the tumultuous 1960s from a young black man's perspective. As whites and blacks battled at home over issues of civil rights and discrimination, on the front lines in Vietnam, whites and blacks had to battle together.
I was with troops of all races, and immediately we bonded for self-protection. I mean, we had to depend on each other while we were out there.
Everybody bled red. The blood was red, and everybody's viscera looked the same.
We talked with several Vietnam vets today who now work with the veterans' rights group Swords to Plowshares, and with Wallace Terry, a former war correspondent who wrote a book on the African-American experience in Vietnam, Blood.
I found on the front lines in Vietnam that there was no color. The enemy bullet didn't discriminate.
All 3 squads in my platoon, their fire team leaders are black, and the point team leaders are black. The platoon sergeant was black. That struck me. It was striking to see that.
But the racial bonding was temporary and fear-driven. Every vet we talked to said when they returned to the safety of base camp, racism reemerged. The vets told us that some camps flew Confederate flags.
Raw, unadulterated rage and hate mixed in with a gut-level fear. I was scared to death from day one over there.
And when blacks complained or wanted to wear African beads, they were called militant, and, say these vets, sent to the most dangerous war zones.
In other words, they were being sent there to die, to get rid of them.
Many Vietnam vets of all races received a cold welcome home after the war. Some from the far left called them baby killers. Some from the far right blamed the vets for losing the war. But returning blacks say they got extra heat from their own people.
You've been used, you've been manipulated, you have become the sucker, the fool of the white man. You have been sent off to fight a war against another people of color for the benefit of who?
If you're disenfranchised from within your own community, you know, it's almost a double whammy.
The vets we talked to today say they aren't asking for anything, not even sympathy, but they do say they have lessons they could teach about race relations, but few people bother to ask. Lessons about racial harmony, lessons about discord. Randy Shandeville for the 10 o'clock news.
Hundreds of veterans live together in a North Bay home dedicated for them, and on this Veterans Day, many spoke movingly of their love of country, battles fought, and friends who did not make it back. Bob McKenzie reports.
In 1884, the Veterans Home in Yountville was built as a place that would take in California veterans when they became old or disabled. In this place, Veterans Day is an important holiday. They went to Europe or the South Pacific or to Korea or Vietnam. Most were shot at, many were wounded, some left parts of their bodies behind, some saw their friends die.
They sent us out to do a job, and we did our best to do that job, and we did. And we made it back safely, and I'm glad to say, thank God for America.
There's a story behind every face here. We'll just tell one. Frank Elwes parachuted into France in the Normandy invasion on D-Day.
The whole outfit was all over the ground. We didn't know we didn't know who was down there. But they were waiting for us. I was 19 years old.
The enemy were sitting there waiting for you, picking you off.
Yeah, coming down, yeah. There were 13,000 that went out. About a minute before midnight. And 9,000 were wounded or killed.
You were among the guys who survived.
Yeah. And then,
some of your friends were killed?
Yeah.
Still hurts after all this time?
Yeah.
A reporter searches for something adequate to say on Veterans Day. We decided to let a vet say it. He's Larry Latman, and he fought in Korea.
The price of liberty and freedom comes very, very high. It's paid in the currency of human lives. Had it not been for our veterans, this would not be the same world that we enjoy today. It would be a much different world. You'd be told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Look how the world has changed. Look how democracy is now going throughout the world and bringing a better life to everybody. It's something that has to be paid for.
And what more could there be to say after that? In Yountville, Bob McKenzie for the 10 o'clock news.